sheet might be where you're going slightly longer pants, a little bit of slack, so if you're actually vibrating in your pants, nobody knows. And yes, I already used the word orgasmic and vibrate all at the same time in this class. Different occasions, dirty, dirty minds. Alright, so, however, that's a little cheap, just that your attire matters, and so does the approach to the podium. Which means if you're outside talking to your colleagues saying, I'm really nervous and really anxious, are you really going to be kicking ass 10 minutes later in the class? I don't think so. And by the way, what's your peers' perception? You don't want to be here. It doesn't mean you have to be out there going, rocking this, I'm owning this room, but it means that your state of mind matters. It matters where you are, which also means the moment you get up, you start owning the room with confidence the moment your team gets up. The moment your team is cohesively in charge of the room. The moment your team shows that you're a team, even though you have individual presentations, that you're almost synonymously capable of taking each other's position where one of you feeling not well on that day. That's when your team starts to go and demonstrate that when you go and start approaching the podium, you give yourself the invisible note card stance, although in your case you actually will have one, and frame up if there's a cross, that you give yourself a firm foundation to stand on, because if you don't, you're going to have one of those, I'm going to go cross over, I'm going to check my ass if it's still actually there, I'm going to go and itch even though I don't itch, I'm going to adjust, I'm going to do this with my hair, my earring. All of those things are idiosyncrasies of nervous tics. And yes, the posture matters. Your shoulders and your position, you can project and own the room if you don't project and own the room. And obviously as you have your note cards, I've always told my students the suggestion of threefold: number them, so that if you're before presentation going, oh crap, you have them in sequential order after you pick them up. Number two, you notice that I have this little ring on here which permits you to go and present to your peers, and as you present to them, you have the luxury of literally using it as a prompt where you're going, okay, I want to talk to you guys, this is really important. Moving on. And it permits you to be able to have control over what it is that you're doing, as opposed to the I am clutching. And by the way, this is not a note card. If you can buy it in our bookstore and it's labeled a note card, that's acceptable. But this little teeny trick of having them together and being organized and permitting you to truck along makes life easier. And it also permits you to go, I'm putting it down, I'm picking it up, but I don't have to worry about being able to, I can make sure I have my stuff in order. So for you to get back to, yes, you have the things that make themselves known onto your note cards, the next thing I want is that your works cited is not just simply copy pasting this to the end. For those of you that had my intro class, they're going, oh, that was so sweet for the informative speeches. Yes, but this is the persuasive level speech, so you're going to use a persuasive level works cited. And your works cited is from most recent to least recent data. Which means if you have a source that is from October the 3rd, 2012, that finds itself on the top. And if you have a source that for some reason is from 1896, that finds itself on the bottom. The reason it's relevant is because in your research it shows what do we dispute, how do we dispute it? Do we take data that's most recent that's disputing it, or do we take data that's been universally established? And it permits you to go and see, do we have enough in each of these directed that's current and recent? Because if you're criticizing a piece, and in some cases a piece that, by the way, could be debated that very morning, and your data is a week, 2, 3, 4 weeks old, you're not doing the best possible job. The ink, in some cases of your assignments, or in some articles, should literally be still dripping wet. If you're looking at green fuel, for example, after last night's debate, there is a lot of stuff that's going to come out tonight. That's obviously why you're getting LexisNexis database access that permits you to go and fuel, but you have to cut it out at some point, which also means to me that if, for instance, all your data is from, let's say, October the 7th, and your presentation is on the 7th, we might have a problem.
Huh?
But for me, it's a cheat sheet of if all your data happens to be, let's say, October the 3rd, 2011, you did a fantastic job finding somebody else's fall 2011 paper. Get where this is going? So ideally, it permits you to see the most recent data. And by the way, were we to later on in our class have an exchange where you're standing in front of your peers and you have an all-out debate, and the person's criticizing you going, well, there's a recent study that has been found. You're not looking at the back of your document going, does it start with the letter A? B? No, C? You're going to look at it going, yes, I found this study and I know exactly what you're talking about. By the way, it was in March, and let me go and hammer it down why you're wrong. Very fond of preemptive planning and organization. You have a works cited and you have a footnote scenario to make your life easier, not to humor your instructor. Just give me 1 second, Phil. So for you, what I want to have accomplished is that these give you the problems of your note cards. And then lastly, what I owe you is obviously the equivalent of, do you sometimes use the reference or do you use visual aids as a ploy? I authorized, as of yesterday, media distribution service for you to walk in and get various resources, including easels, including adapters, which means that you might go with, I'm a really big technophobe person, so I'm not going to use PowerPoint and I'm not going to go and plug it in because I might not want to do that. Fine. And you might go with, I'm going to go with the turning it on and turning it off overhead. But you know what most of the time holds students back from doing that? Can I have a show of hands if you don't know how to actually get one of those or make one of those? Show your hands. That's what holds students back. What do you think is a quick answer I owe you? Okay, how to make one of those? And it would be blatantly easy, but that's also why students go, I didn't want to ask because it felt like I should already know this, so I feel like an idiot. Crap in, crap out, which means that if the quality of the document were to print it out is a very difficult to see image or graphic, don't go and make it an overhead, because if it already is crap to begin with, it's crap to basically get out. But if you go to our print services, and by the way, by print services, you can either use the right door when you go into our library, where it actually says here's the print service at Cal Poly. I think they're called Polyprint, Mustang Print, they usually alternate each quarter. Bless you, man. But as you walk in, you literally say, hi, I'd like to have this printed. If it's a color print, it might set you back as much as $4. If you want to go and have the competitive MarketScape, you go to Kinko's or you go to Staples and you have it printed out there. They can get the digital version, which means just like any printout, if you can print it in black and white, you can just have simply having it printed out on here. Students are usually hesitant because they can't print this themselves, which also means they have to plan in advance. Other than PowerPoint, which you can prepare 10 seconds before class, you actually have to do this in advance, which also shows your peers that you prepared in advance. Very fond of prepared in advance. Did I mention that? Can't exactly procrastinate this until 10 seconds before class. Unless, of course, you have your own printer where it all smears right before you come to class and your colors just run together. But in general, it shows preemptive planning. And it also means that in case you do use PowerPoint or you use computers, if you've never used it for the purpose of this assignment, don't now. Did I train or teach you how to do it? Because there are a lot of things as far as how many things should be on an overhead slide, how they should be outlined. And by the way, I don't want to have that your presentation becomes a voiceover where we technically have you go and do this. Get some popcorn. Relax. Here's my 5-minute speech for my proposition, and here's my slide. And then you basically have your peer go, well, as you can clearly see in the sentence structure of this argument in the Truman model, it is not really done very well. Now we move on to the next part. Nice PowerPoint slide. Here you can see some other things that have been integrated into my nice PowerPoint presentation. Then when you're all done, look at your peers and you go, that's my delivery. Really? Then why didn't we just YouTube you? Because we didn't need to actually have you physically in the class to do that. Since it's about persuasion, it's not a voiceover. So for those of you that are really good at PowerPoint, use it to supplement, not replace your presentation. I didn't say I required PowerPoint. I love technology. But that might also be the day where your hard drive dies, your laptop doesn't have a connector, or everything that could go wrong will, because it's Murphy's Law. Which means, yes, you walk in here and let's say you have a Mac and you can't hook it up because you forgot to check out from media distribution services an adapter. You don't look at me and go, Mehl, do you have one? I don't know what to do. Nope. Can you help me? Nope. Which button do I click on my PC? Is it F13? Is it, how do I do? Don't know. How do you figure out how to actually go about doing the overhead? Well, media distribution service can literally help you walk step by step through it if you wanted to, but I'm not requiring it yet. I like low tech when low tech works. By the way, it also means that sometimes a poster board can work. For that, you don't do the where you park the poster board here, walk back, and by the way, the air of you walking back, what happens to the poster board? And you're not going to go with, I thought these clips might work. I like a nice, beautiful easel to be prompted right next to you as a speaker, and then you can do the, now you see it, now you don't. Because if you're doing the, I have the shocking revelation of this author, and we can all see it before you ever talk, I don't want to have a pre-boarding. Meaning don't do your speech before you do your speech. And you don't want to recruit your peer to be Vanna White where they're going, here now you see, and then also down there, and hey, which is the danger of the poster board. Our perception of a poster board is it's very rudimentary, but sometimes does the job. I'm not poo-pooing poster boards, just be aware of I expect easels, which also translates if we have 6 presenters. I don't expect 18 easels to be in this classroom. Coordinate that you're actually going to bring one, And by the way, ask them how to put it together. I've seen literally 4 engineering students going, I don't know how to do this, and then for some reason English major goes, oh! And the engineering students go, bad design. I designed it better. Stupid. But in the day of being anxious, you don't want to be standing here going, I don't know, how does this, is this okay for everybody? No. And that also coincides you don't use the laptop. Turn around and go, can everybody see this? Yes. Can everybody know that I'm about to get an F? Yes. Let's please not do that. So if you already know that, if it doesn't seem right, or if there's a graphic, a picture, an image that you're going, you can't really tell, the moment you utter the phrase, you can't really tell what is the immediate decision when you actually were working on it. Don't use it. Sometimes if you spend 2 hours on a poster board because you put the 2 hours in and then you discovered that it's not worth it, what do you think is the immediate conclusion you draw? Don't use it. And it sucks because you put effort into it. And I'm giving you credit, by the way, on your research paper for, don't mentally and physically pack up, I still have 2 minutes and 20 seconds. If you're getting into your research paper, the credit I'm giving you is for all the work that you've done. So I'm looking at what is all the raw material that you looked into to be able to get credit for the 2 of you. Ideally, to fail this assignment, it literally means that your research paper sucked, you put no effort into this whatsoever, and your presentation day you decided to not come in any way, shape, or form presentable. I find it very difficult to look at, there are 5 percentage points for the combined research paper and then 5 for your individual presentation to get a score below a 6.5, 7. You'd have to almost literally make an extra effort to go there. But a score of an 8, yep. A score of a 9, hell yeah. And a score of a 10, work your hiney off. Because if you want to have a perfect score, then I expect what I've just relayed to you as an audience. So that means that your note cards are a reflection of your preparation, that you have a manuscript, that you're well organized, that your research paper is not congruent or synonymous with your presentation itself, and that as an audience you came prepared having read the article, which means the speakers can assume the audience knows what you're talking about. You do not have to spend the entire introduction on summarizing the article because the audience is versed on the article. If you're not, and then you're critiquing the author of, they didn't summarize the article, I'm going to go with the because you already know this. Any last clarifying, crucial, important questions? I know Phil's hand was up before, so go ahead, sir.
Okay, a couple of questions. One time you said that the works cited should be sequential order, but then you said it should be...
I said the footnotes need to be sequential, where works cited needs to be in the sequence of from most recent to least recent. The differentiation is the footnotes are sequential.